Are you ready?
Rising up the middle. He's in!
You think you could tell us what to wear?
Double clutches, throws. It is caught.
You think that you're better?
From 40. On the way, a knuckleball. He got it!
Break it down!
Welcome to the College Football X with your hosts, John Nelson, John Wilkerson, and Phil Cantor.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the X, the College Football X. After a couple of weeks' absence, I'm John Wilkerson back joining you, and I've got the regular cast of characters, Brother Phil, Brother John. It was quite an interesting Saturday of college football yesterday or on Saturday. And let's start with the one that everybody had their focus on. Of course,
Dakota
around
Marker?
here. What's that?
Dakota Marker?
No,
Right,
John,
the
not
Dakota
that
marker
one.
was played. Congratulations to the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State. They've got the marker for another year. Yeah, I forgot about the Dakota marker game. That was one of our ones we crossed on the calendar.
1 versus 2 in Division II, Grand Valley and Ferris. That one? We talking that one?
No, we're not talking about the Fighting
we're talking about the
Buellers.
one. I think the one what we're talking about is the one around these parts we refer to as the third Saturday in October.
Georgia Southern
that would
James Madison.
Which would be Alabama, Tennessee.
Oh,
So first of all, before we get into the nuts and bolts of this game, and there's quite a bit,
Yeah.
think this is probably the best a Tennessee fan, I wish J-Dub were here, has
Yeah, no
felt
kidding.
probably in 25 plus years. You know, I've always thought Tennessee's got a great fan base. I've always loved their fan base, but that was the ultimate feel-good moment for a program that, let's face it, they've gone through a myriad of head coaches since Phil Fulmer left. You got Lane Kiffin, you got Butch Jones,
And the poster child for bad coaching hires.
yeah, Derek Dooley, Jeremy Pruitt. I mean, these are a fan base that have taken a lot of punches, and now they get the big win over Alabama.
That was a long time coming. And you're right. I think the last time that Tennessee was really relevant in college football was probably after they won the national championship in 1997, early 98. They've been floundering in mediocrity since then because they were never able to get the coaching hires right. Not to say Josh Heupel is going to end up winning Coach of the Year and be that guy to get him to the national championship, but he's a whole hell of a lot better than anything else that they've picked up so far. And that's a tough matchup. They built that team around speed, quickness, and being able to run at that fast pace that Heupel likes to run. He did it at UCF and did it successfully. And it's a major, if you can pull that over on a Nick Saban coach defense, you're onto something.
When you looked at that offense, and I don't know, and I guess depending on your fan base, you looked at that offense for the University of Tennessee and just the ease in which it went up and down the field. I don't know if that is more Josh Heupel, Hendon Hooker, and a receiver that had a day of days, or if you had him in fantasy, if you had that combo for double points in fantasy yesterday.
Jalen has 6 catches, 207 yards, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, 6 catches, 5 for scores. I mean, if you had them as a part of your Saturday in college football fantasy, you win the week. But I don't know if this is more talking the positives of Josh Heupel or the negatives or perceived negatives when it comes to the Alabama defense. And so that for me is where I'm looking at things. The game itself was absolutely, bat-ish crazy. And especially when you have, basically a 30-point fourth quarter. And when you look at the time that was on the clock after Will Reichert missed the field goal, you're wondering, okay, that might just be entirely too much time for Tennessee to go down and have a shot to do something. Everybody's saying, oh, you're going to overtime, overtime, overtime. No, you went down, you kicked a field goal, and that thing, by the way, was a duck. It was DUCK duck. But last time I checked, as long as it goes in between the uprights, it doesn't matter what it looks like. And all I'm going to say is Chase probably will not have to purchase a meal on campus ever again or anywhere that has any kind of Tennessee paraphernalia. I can guarantee you his picture will be in every Tennessee sports bar in the western half of the state of Tennessee. And anytime he walks in,
well, no, eastern half.
Thank you, eastern half. I'm staring at it like this, and I'm going over there. So in the eastern half of Tennessee, anything that's dressed in orange, he goes wandering in. He sees his picture up on that wall. All he's got to do is sit there and go, driver's license, point. He ain't paying nothing for the rest of his life.
But bigger picture with that kick. Finally, Tennessee fans can say God's smiling on the Volunteers, because 9 times out of 10 that doesn't go through the uprights.
No.
That ends up in the end zone as a touchback, or somewhere nowhere near going over the crossbar. And
Yeah,
for
like 10 yards
somehow,
short.
some reason, there's some divine intervention, that ball went over the crossbar. And bigger picture, maybe this is Tennessee's year.
No.
There's still a little bit to prove. I mean, what it does set up is in 3 weeks, the Volunteers have to make the trip down to Athens and play the University of Georgia. That's where we're going to find out.
Yeah, that is where we're going to find out. Definitely. I think that's definitely going to be the case. And when you have individuals who are, how do we phrase this? Already trying to, and I know that this was a joke that was attached to it, but there are some of the folks on the Twitters who have already prepaid for bondsmen for their trips to Athens, anticipating what is going to happen. If you don't have a ticket, you're going to have to pay a lot to get one. If you've got a ticket and you want to make a profit on your presence and not go into all of that madness, you will definitely be making a lot of money on that little piece of paper that says Georgia versus Tennessee, Sanford Stadium on it in a couple of weeks.
Well, let's not forget, too, that Tennessee still has Kentucky to play at Neyland before Georgia. And that, to me, would be the game that I'd be a little bit concerned about a week before going to Athens. And Kentucky, that's a stout football team. And, that's a rivalry as well. And so, I think before we start talking about Georgia and Tennessee playing as undefeated foes, I think I'm looking at that Kentucky game as a game that could be a possibility of Tennessee stubbing their toe.
Yeah, we got Georgia, Florida too. I mean, Georgia's off this week. They play Florida the week after in Jacksonville in their annual slobber knocker. Then it's Tennessee. So, yeah, it's setting itself up right now. And I would say, speaking of Georgia, who beat Vanderbilt 55-0 to the surprise of nobody.
No.
Who's number one now? Is Georgia number one, or is it Ohio State?
I still think it's Georgia by default.
Yeah, I do too. I still think it's Georgia. They didn't do anything against Vanderbilt to not be number one.
I would argue it's Ohio State.
All right. Present
Go ahead.
Present your case, counselor.
They have been equally as dominant for one. CJ Stroud has led the universe in touchdown passes. They have been playing without their best wide receiver this year, and they're still dominating everybody they play. I think they make a better case. They haven't had a game like Georgia did against Missouri or Kent. I think that they're a more dominant team right now. Whether it plays out that way at the end of the season remains to be seen, because Ohio State still has to play Michigan, which is going to be a tough game. But you could make a pretty strong argument that Ohio State's just as good as Georgia. Georgia they've dominated the games mostly they should have, but not all of them.
Well, I agree. They laid an egg against Mizzou, but Ohio State was off this week. Georgia puts up 55 against a better than we expected Vanderbilt team. And, you know, as far as the voters are concerned, God knows what they're thinking, but to me, I would still go with Georgia and Ohio State. But quite honestly, Phil, it's a pick 'em. It's it's not really something worth arguing about. If Ohio
No,
State's
because
number
it means
one,
nothing
great.
right
If
now.
Georgia's number one, great. It only matters when they play in January.
Yeah.
Um,
Or when
let's
the college football playoff poll comes out in, I think, at the end of this month.
right. Right, and that's really the poll that matters. Um, what want to switch gears now and go to a conference I know very intimately, the ACC.
I thought you were going to say
Uh,
the Missouri Valley.
well, Clemson goes to Florida State, and credit the Knowles. I mean, I thought that's the best they've looked in a long time. John shaking his head no, but look, it was nice to see the atmosphere back at Doak Campbell
Yeah,
for
they've
a
made a
Clemson
lot
Florida
of
State game.
progress.
I thought Florida State, yeah, I agree. I thought they've made a tremendous amount of progress. I don't think that team the last few years scores 14 points in the fourth quarter, nearly pulls it out. So I think things are going in the right direction there. But Clemson got the win at Doak Campbell. But next week they play Syracuse, which is the other undefeated team in the ACC Atlantic.
Anybody
They
have that in the
defeated
poll?
NC State at whatever the dome they're calling it now. It's not the Carrier Dome anymore. 24-3. Now, obviously, NC State did not have Devin Leary out for the year, but Syracuse dominated. And this is really the team that Dino Babers has wanted the last 7 years. He's been there. Tough, physical on defense, physical on offense as well, and backs that can run over you and run by and run away from you as well. He's kind of got finally got the total package. It took him 7 years and some and some lean years to get there. But I don't know, guys. Do the orange get exposed by the other orange on Saturday?
The JMA Wireless Dome
Yes.
is our new sponsor for this particular institution, and I think the answer is no, absolutely not. Zero, zero, zero. No, not happening. 42-year deal with Carrier and the JMA. It's the JMA Dome or the JMA Wireless Dome. Either way, it's the Carrier Dome to me. JMA ain't paying me. But the short answer is no. I think that Syracuse gets their wake up call. I think that they probably hang in there for about a quarter and a half next week.
Maybe at halftime.
And then, I think third, fourth quarter is when I think that Clemson distances themselves from what you see from Syracuse so far.
Yeah, I would agree with John on that. I mean, it's a nice story. Dino Babers probably one of those guys who at least was on the honorable mention on the hot seat list before the season even started, based on what happened to them over the last couple of seasons where they haven't been that particularly competitive. They're a much improved team, and I give him credit for that. He's done a good job coaching them up, but they're not on the same level as Clemson. They're not probably on the same level as even Wake Forest, arguably in the ACC.
Yeah.
I would say that you're looking at it. You're looking at a bowl team for sure. They're 6-0, so they've already qualified. But their schedule their schedule's not too friendly here at the very end, with games at Clemson. They host Notre Dame. They host Florida State, but they've got to play Wake too. But really, like you said, Wilkie, you can consider this already a successful season for the Orange.
Well, and Clemson, this is the quietest undefeated team in college football because I finally got a chance to sit down and watch the Tigers on Saturday. It's the Clemson team we've known for the last 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and outstanding depth in the trenches. Still the stoutest defense, one of the stoutest defenses that can match up with anybody. DJU has really matured. I was really impressed. This is a
Looks like a
totally
totally
different
different
quarterback
guy.
than he was last year. and they've got the weapons in the backfield and out on the edges now. So, but nobody really. I mean, they're just kind of there. They're not on everybody's conversation when it comes to talking about teams in college football. Even though they're ranked number 4 and undefeated, and they're going to dominate the ACC. I mean, they're going to hoist a trophy in Charlotte in December and go to the playoff. But to me, this is the quietest undefeated team in college football, and it's just not getting any attention.
And for the record, Tennessee moved to number 3 in the AP poll. Georgia's 1. Ohio State is 2. Alabama moves down to number 6, swapping places with
Wow.
Tennessee. So Georgia got 31 of the 48 first place votes. Ohio State got the other 17. So that's where we are with 1, 2, 3, and 6. No mention of 4 or 5 until you actually get into the article, but your headline 1, 2, and 3, and all the way down to 6. And you mentioned the quietest undefeated team. Clemson right now is Michigan and Clemson both 7-0, 4 and 5 respectively. Ole Miss at number 7, it's 7-0. TCU
Yeah.
UCLA at 6-0 at 8 and 9. Syracuse at 14 at 6-0, and then everybody else has 1 or 2 losses below. So that's where you are with your AP.
Yeah, well, my point there was the elite teams of college football in the last 10 years, and they've been among that, and they're just kind of quiet right now. I want to move on to a couple conferences that, yeah, keep your fingers crossed you're going to get a team in the playoff, but have had some clubs that are playing well. First of all, in the Pac-12, Utah defeating Southern Cal with a 2-point conversion, a touchdown 2-point conversion with less than a minute left. If you got a chance to watch this game, it was fantastic. And I'm impressed. I've always been impressed with Southern Cal under Lincoln Riley. I've always been impressed with Utah under Kyle Winningham. It was a great atmosphere at Rice Eccles. But at the same time, it kind of hurts the Pac-12 because that's their marquee name, Southern Cal. And now that they've got a loss in conference, that really hurts the Pac-12's case of getting a team in the playoff.
It does, but at the same time, they've still got an undefeated UCLA team that's 6-0 as well. So that doesn't write them off. Look at it this way. How many times over the last couple of years in conversation about the best teams in college football have we been even able to talk about anybody in the Pac-12?
No, we haven't.
That's what I'm saying. They're becoming relevant again. USC, while they lost that game to Utah, and Utah's a really tough team, Utah also lost to UCLA, and they also lost to the University of Florida on week number 1.
I think they're canceling each other out, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And I want to say that ESPN Game Day is going to Eugene, Oregon for the Oregon UCLA game this week.
Yeah, I was going to say UCLA's got Oregon. That's good as it gets right now in the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
And then they host Stanford in front of friends and family at the Rose Bowl. Arizona State, Arizona. The Southern Cal game is in a month. So really, when you look at that schedule, I mean, Stanford's going to be tough. You never know what you're going to get with Stanford after beating Notre Dame. But really, when you look at that schedule, the Southern Cal game looms large after they get by Oregon, should they get by Oregon.
And if they get by Oregon and they beat USC, DTR for Heisman?
He'll be in the conversation, that's for sure.
Well, let's say, all right, so then you've opened that door.
You're welcome.
Stetson Bennett?
No.
No?
He'll get an invite.
No, they won't.
Wow. Okay. Because of what we're seeing from Tennessee, does that mean Hendon Hooker gets an invite if this keeps up?
Yeah, if this keeps up, he's definitely going to go to New York. And
Bryce Young,
by default, because he's the reigning champion, I think that he.
Right.
well, and because he's putting up video game numbers, and without him, Alabama probably has 2 losses already.
Yeah.
That's probably your big 3 right there.
Okay, so then who else gets an invite? Who are 4 and 5? Is it all right? So we said what?
I'm
Bennett,
stumped.
Bennett, Bryce, Hooker, who am I-
DTR if they play.
DT
Yeah.
So who's your 5th? Is it DJU if Clemson continues to do what they're doing?
I don't think so because they're not getting that much national TV exposure. I think those are the 4 right now that
Yeah.
I would say are the leaders in the clubhouse.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Clemson's the thing that Clemson's lacking, and I didn't get to say this when we were talking about them, is they're lacking style points right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're taking care of business, but they're just kind of taking care of business, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Which there's something to be said for that. If you do that quietly, and all of a sudden you look up in the last weekend in November, and you're looking at a 12-0 Clemson team, then you're like, oh my God, what happened?
It's a Northwestern Mutual Life approach to the Heisman Trophy. There you go.
Or the Bachman Turner overdrive approach.
Yes.
To college football, which is taking care of business.
Yes, with the lightning bolt around the necklace around Elvis Presley's around his neck, the short necklace, the TCB. Yes, no doubt. That's your Google searches for today, kids.
All right. And finally, one of the other conference I was referring to is the Big 12. And right now, if the season ended today, it would be the TCU Horned Frogs that would be the conference champion. Well, they got to go to the championship game, obviously, but it would be the top team heading in there. Most unexpected for me to see TCU at the top of the Big 12. And they got a huge win in Fort Worth against Oklahoma State, defeating the Cowboys 43-40. It's kind of score we're accustomed to in the Big 12. But to me, this really catapulted TCU into the conversation that I never expected them to be at 6-0 at this point of the season and perhaps having a playoff.
Yeah, it's theirs for the taking at this point. I mean, they run the table, they're in the playoff, period. They've already beaten Oklahoma State, which is a big hurdle. Oklahoma is not the team that they've been the last decade or so.
No.
They've beaten, I got to find their game so I can look at their schedule because I don't have it memorized.
Colorado.
Well, they've already beaten Oklahoma and Kansas and Oklahoma State. So
yeah, and
they've beaten really the top teams, I guess you could say, in the Big 12. And really all they have is Texas, and that game is in Austin. Baylor might give them a little bit of a run for their money because that's an old Southwest Conference rival.
And that's a sandwich game going from Austin and then staying at home for your regular season finale with Iowa State.
Right. So I'd be looking at that Texas game as a place where if they're going to get upended.
Excuse me while I go let the young puppy dog outside who was pounding his tail against the door.
I heard that. Well, I was like, wait a minute. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But we know somebody wants out because by the way, the 3 of us have dogs. And Phil has more than Wilkie and I do, but Wilkie is the one who's had the more damage recently from dealing with playing with dogs. And 13 stitches, was it?
13 stitches.
But I mean, you've got those games in there that now that Phil's back with us, you got those games in there that can come up and bite you if you're not careful. Sorry, Wilkie, unintentional.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
No, well, I mean, Wilkie was playing with his dog, and in playing with the dog, I think did you get bit and jerk your hand away, or were you trying to avoid getting bit?
Neither. I was just playing tug of war, and she let go unexpectedly.
Oh, okay. So it was tug of war, and then Wilkie's hand, and Wilkie breaks something. Hopefully, and he doesn't end up with a 7-year jinx.
Well, here on the one of the sets here at the OSG complex, there used to be a mirror on this door.
That is true.
You were there being used to.
Used to. But no, there are some trap games in there that are rooted in that run, and you've got to be very, very careful if your TCU down the stretch, because Lubbock can be tricky, even though they're coming to your place. In Austin, in Waco, at home against Iowa State. I think that's sneakier, tougher than a lot of folks may think right now.
Major props to Sonny Dykes
yeah.
taking over that team first season, and he's got them off and running. It looks like a different team than Gary Patterson had completely.
A little more wide open than when
Little.
Gary Patterson was there. Fellas, let's, what do we say we take a break here?
Oh, one
And-
quick shout out to the alma
Sure.
mater.
Oh, there you go.
Upset win.
Oh, we'll get to him.
My mighty Georgia Southern Eagles with the big win over previously 25th ranked James Madison, thanks to a spectacular one-handed catch in the end zone with a minute left to go in the game. Huge win. We're not going to win the Sun Belt or anything like that, but it puts us at 4-3. Kyle Van Treese threw for 9,000 yards on 64 passes, I think, something that probably has Irk Russell spinning in his grave.
Yeah.
But we won.
And John's already spilled the beans about the Dakota Marker earlier in the show, and 1 versus 2 in Division II. So all that good stuff.
You know it.
And my alma mater was off last week, so the Missouri State Bears didn't win or lose. They just watched the games. And all right, so we're gonna take a little break here, and when we come back, we'll kind of tie a bow on last week, on this past Saturday, and look ahead at what's coming up this Saturday in college football, as the College Football X continues after this timeout.
Like and subscribe.
Please like and subscribe.
Warning. Orthopedic surgeons are seeing an increase in overuse injuries when young athletes perform the same repetitive stressful motions over and over. Pitching, tennis, weight training, even long swimming workouts can cause overuse trauma that may require surgery. If your kids play and train hard, visit orthoinfo.org or stopsportsinjuries.org. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and the American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine.
If you're a veteran looking to file for your service-connected benefits through the Department of Veterans Affairs, don't go it alone. AMVET's highly trained service officers stand ready to walk you through the process at VA regional offices around the country, helping you to navigate the complex VA system free of charge. With new presumptions for Agent Orange exposure and other conditions, AMVETS can offer you the advice you need to finally receive all of your earned benefits. In 2009 alone, AMVETS helped process more than 65,000 claims and appeals, securing more than $410 million in benefits. To find your nearest AMVET service officer or to learn more, visit amvets.org.
And welcome back to the College Football X. I'm John. There's John. There's Phil. We're talking college football. We just kind of reviewed what was a fairly crazy week of college football last Saturday. You know, we talked about storming the field in Knoxville, Tennessee, and how Tennessee football fans are feeling good about themselves, really feeling good about themselves for the first time in over 25 years. We understand that the same thing happened in Boulder, Colorado, when the Buffs won their first game of the year. So a whole different scenario from Knoxville, Tennessee to Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much opposite end of the spectrum there.
We won a game.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
We won a game. Let's storm the field. That's a bit different, yes.
Tennessee now will face UT Martin at Neyland Stadium on Saturday.
Really?
So Tennessee Martin will get a nice check.
Yes.
From
That's a
the
scrimmage
flagship
game.
university.
Tickets as low as $56 to get in the building on the secondary market for anyone who's interested.
Why would
Well,
you
if you
pay
wanna cross the
$56 to go see that game? It's like a practice game. It's like going to see the orange and white game.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, if somebody wants to cross seeing a game in Neyland off their bucket list, that could serve its purpose.
Yeah, got a point there.
I saw the Tennessee Martin Skyhawks lose to Tennessee's Volunteers. It was great.
It was 85-0.
Oh God.
Hey, you can do the whole thing. Go to Calhoun's before the game, for breakfast, since it's a noon kickoff, and go to the game and do whatever you do in Knoxville after a football game.
So
Great.
So we touched on it a little bit earlier. Syracuse and Clemson at Death Valley, the two undefeated teams in the ACC Atlantic. We both, I think, we all kind of feel that you know this is the game where Syracuse kind of comes back to earth.
True.
But we all kind of agree that Clemson's kind of is the Clemson we've known for the last 10 years. Very talented, a lot of depth, and really the best team in the ACC.
Yeah, but that's really not that big of an accomplishment. The ACC is I would say, marginally better than they were last season, partially because of Clemson becoming Clemson again.
And congratulations to Clemson. You continue to be who you are on a yearly basis. Good work.
Well, I give Dabo Swinney some credit. He lost his two top assistant coaches, and they've actually become a better team. It's not so easy to do. Although I think that a lot of that falls on the shoulders of DJ I'm not even going to say
DJ Ukulele?
No.
DJU. Just go there.
Yeah.
Ukulele.
Becoming the quarterback that they kind of expected him to be. I would say this game you're looking at a 37-14 or a 37-17 kind of game.
Yeah.
Nothing fancy, easy win for Clemson.
John, I don't know about you, but when he said ukulele, I had Tiny Tim in my head for some reason.
Oh, I'm right there with you, brother. It's just DJ Ukulele, and now that
Don Ho.
exactly. No, I'm seriously. We're gonna have that thought in the rest of our brains from now on. Anytime we talk Clemson football and that particular quarterback, we're going to be discussing the value of DJ Ukulele at quarterback.
You're welcome.
We discussed a little bit earlier about UCLA, Oregon, the two top teams in the Pac-12 meeting in Eugene. I think, John, you mentioned College Game Day is scheduled to be there. You know, for college football fans like the three of us, I mean, this resonates with us because of the records and the programs. I just don't know, even though ESPN is going to try to hype it like crazy, I just don't know if this is going to have any kind of appeal nationally. It's just maybe a whole hum game between these two because obviously Oregon's got some mass appeal with the Nike tie-in, but UCLA, you don't. I mean, they've just been. They don't even care enough to 30,000 show up at the Rose Bowl.
No.
This is kind of a game that should get a lot of national attention, but I just don't think they're going to drum up any.
No, I don't. I mean, right now, as we're talking, Oregon, the line opened up with Oregon at 5.5, and I could see that. Autzen, traditionally, very, very tough place to play. I think this will be a litmus test for DTR and for UCLA. I think UCLA loses this one. But I think that it will also come down to which Bo Nix shows up. And you don't know, frankly. And Bo Nix is your box of chocolates in the Pac-10, 12, 14.
To steal an old quote, you don't know Bo.
No, you don't. And it's going to be, on a weekly basis, we don't know which Bo Nix is going to show up. Is it screaming Bo Nix that is running for his life and trying to create things like Francis Xavier Tarkenton? Or is it the passer that will light you up for 3.5 spins when he's got the time to do it and doesn't think too quickly in his own head to try to process information? I think that it's probably going to be a little tighter than that 5.5 just because of the not knowing which Bo Nix shows up factor. But I still think that Oregon gets it done by the time we come back here next week.
I tend to like UCLA in this game simply because of the weapons that they have and the fact that they are playing away from home, and home field advantage has been nothing to them. So I don't think they're going to be fazed at all by the Ogden crowd in Eugene. And I just think, guys mentioned Bo Nix, and what are you going to get? I think he still needs to prove himself in big games, and this is a big game. So I'm going with UCLA in this one. And I would love to see the Bruins win this one because I'd love to see the UCLA USC rivalry be a game, not only for the Pac-12 championship, of course they do a championship game, but also have national title implications. I'm going to go with the Bruins.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with Wilkie in that respect. I would love to see UCLA win the game just because it would bring back a little bit of nostalgia. I hate to say this, but it would actually validate Chip Kelly, who's
Yep.
struggled at UCLA for the better part of the last 4 or 5 years. And Oregon, while an improved team after getting absolutely destroyed in week number one, I'm not sure that they're good, and I'm not sure that that's the team that you want carrying the torch this year in the Pac-12. I mean, that could be wrong. I would love to see, like Wilkie, a UCLA win, which gives UCLA versus USC a whole heck of a lot more meaning.
And this is really the first big conference game for new head coach Dan Lanning. And I'm just curious to see how he responds because Chip Kelly's been there and done that. And that's one reason why I think I like UCLA in this one is because of just the experience that Chip Kelly's had in those big conference type games. So I'm giving the edge to the Bruins.
I'm still going to stick with Oregon, but by the skin of their teeth. I don't think that it's going to be one of those runaway games, but I think that Bo Nix is going to create enough mistakes to keep UCLA close. And DTR, obviously, we know what he can do when it comes to his own ability, both as a passer and as a runner. I think that if you had a more solid quarterback and that was a calmer quarterback in the pocket, I think that the margin might be larger than that 5.5. But I think because of that, I think that the mistakes that Oregon makes keeps UCLA in it longer, and that's why I think UCLA covers, but Oregon wins.
In the Big 12, Texas and Oklahoma State in Stillwater. And I tend to like OSU in this one because I think they're going to be angry that they let an opportunity against TCU go away. It's Texas. It's the burnt oranges coming into town. And I just think everything is pointing toward Oklahoma State winning this game. I still like Spencer Sanders, the quarterback. But I just really like OSU in this game.
Am I allowed to say is Texas finally back again?
No. Well, Texas is back this week. How about that?
I like the Longhorns in this game for the simple fact Quinn Ewers is proving that he's a pretty darn good quarterback.
Oh yeah, he's a good quarterback.
And between him and Bijan Robinson, they've got a pretty good offensive team, and they're playing some defense as well. I mean, are they going to win the national championship? No. But I always considered Oklahoma State a little bit of an overrated team, and I still stick by that theory. I mean, they've got some players. Spencer Sanders is a solid quarterback, but they don't do anything that outstanding enough for me to say that they're going to come in and they're going to be able to hold up to a really good, tough Texas team. There, I said it.
I'm just. If neither team wins, it won't surprise me. I think they'll still be playing by the time we come back next week.
I kind of thought the same thing about Alabama and Tennessee, but yet Tennessee won.
Yeah, I think it's going to go like 7,000 overtimes. There's not going to be a winner, and they're still going to be playing by the time we come back next week. It's going to be one of the most frustrating games for both fan bases that we will have ever seen. Two of the more underwhelming teams to me in the top 25, and they get to play each other. So, yay, team.
Mississippi State and Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Who's going to have the best one-liner at the coach's press conference? I think we know who's going to win that one by default.
Oh.
But
Saban.
But Mississippi State has been they've been kind of that mystery team. I mean, we didn't think they were going to be this good this year.
No, actually, I think they've taken on the personality of their coach. They're all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, so they're going to have a lot of trick plays, obviously, for Alabama. But how angry will the Tide be, and how much film is Mike Leach watching of the Tennessee game, knowing that they can expose the middle of the zone in their secondary?
Oh yeah, I think that's it. I think that Alabama, yes, will be very, very mad, I don't know if they'll cover the 21.5 because we all know that Will Rogers is going to throw the ball all day, and then he'll throw it some more on Sunday and some more on Monday to try to continue to get stats for the game on Saturday. And you're looking at somebody who, and see, 7 divided, what's 7 into 32? You're looking at what?
Little under 5.
So 40, let's just say he is averaging pass attempts per game in the mid 40s.
Bless you.
So he's completing about 75% of his passes.
And that's nothing to sneeze about.
No, absolutely not.
Nothing to sneeze at all.
So he's completing about 75% of his passes, and he's thrown for 2,300 yards in 7 games. So once again, you do the math, it's north of 300. I think it's going to be like damn the running game, and it's not going to matter. They're going to throw the ball all day. This game is going to take all freaking day and legitimately it is going to be, we're not going to run the ball. I don't care about running the ball against Alabama because we know what's going to happen. So you're gonna have some of the best halftime sound from Mike Leach ever because it's going to be gaff Mike Leach, even more so because he's going up against Alabama as a 21.5 point underdog. I think they backdoor cover. I think Alabama wins. I think that
it said backdoor.
I did. That is true. I think that they cover late. I think it probably is like a 20-point game, and it's because of a late touchdown pass by Will Rogers. He will have thrown somewhere in the neighborhood of 67 pass attempts on the day, which means he will have completed about 40 or 42 of them, and he will have thrown for about 400-something yards, but they'll still lose. I think they'll cover. Will Rogers is going to have a field day, and he might be your 5th invitee to New York by the time we're talking.
That's a negative Ghost Rider. Do not see that happening at all.
Right.
I think Saban's going to. I think Alabama as a team is going to decide that they want to run the ball down somebody's throat.
Oh, Jahmyr Gibbs, absolutely.
And Mississippi State is going to be the victim of that. And if Jahmyr Gibbs and company get the ball going downhill like that, they can just play keep away. And that alone will keep Will Rogers from throwing the ball 70 times in a game. You've got 2 completely different styles of playing college football crashing into each other, and I don't think Mississippi State has the horses or the consistency to keep up with anybody like Alabama. I think they cover that one pretty. I think the Red Elephants cover. Look that one up. They cover that easily cover the spread.
Well, I think the Alabama pass rush is going to be challenged all week because that's one thing Hendon Hooker really didn't have to worry about. Whereas he's more of a mobile quarterback and he gets rid of the ball quickly as well. So I would expect Will Rogers to be on his back quite a bit in the game. And I like Alabama in a rout in this game because, yeah, they're going to run down Mississippi State's throat. I don't see how Mississippi State having the horses. And by the time we're midway through the third quarter, heading into the fourth, that defense of Mississippi State is going to be so worn down that it's going to be a field day for Bryce Young afterwards. So I look at for an Alabama route in this one.
You got to have the ball 70 times in order to throw 70 passes. Don't see that happening.
Right. A very intriguing game in Fort Worth. A lot of purple. Kansas State and TCU. Kansas State, K-State quietly is 6-1 and having a tremendous year. We've talked about TCU earlier. K-State's a team that doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and they're very methodical. And I kind of like that going up against TCU because we like Sonny Dykes a lot, but how much energy do they still have left after that effort against Oklahoma State?
And who would think that Adrian Martinez would be playing in a game for a potential share of the lead in the Big 12?
Adrian Martinez is 37 years old.
That is true.
That
is true. He is on the 9-year plan.
Yeah, him, Freddie Wagan, Joey Jones. Who else is on that? Who else?
Spencer Tillman.
Spencer Tillman.
He started the 21st century as a quarterback at Nebraska, and after 21 years, has moved on to Kansas State.
Check.
He's wrapping up his career in Manhattan.
Yeah. Gosh. I just looking at this one. I mean, it is. What? Right now, you're looking at TCU at 4.5. I think TCU gets this one done, and I think it's.
Okay.
I think TCU gets it done. I think they cover, but I think the play really here may be the total. I would go over on the total, and it might be done halfway through the third quarter if these teams have their way.
Kansas State coming off a big 10-9 win over Iowa State.
All right,
Get that up.
All right, some other notables we can just kind of touch on. Phil thinks Ohio State should be number one. Well, we'll say they're number one for Phil because they will be hosting Iowa. And the question is, will that potent Iowa offense actually score?
No.
No.
No, they won't. No, 1,000 times no.
But the Ferentz family is not firing their offensive coordinator.
Nope.
No. Ole Miss and LSU. For us in our part of the country, this is kind of a historic game. We always think about Billy Cannon. That'll be probably dusted off during the week.
Yeah.
Where you'll see his Halloween night run. The game is in Baton Rouge. The Fighting Lane Kiffins are coming in. We'll see what style of helmet they'll wear for this one.
True.
The Fighting Brian Kelly's coming off a win against Florida versus
right, Brian. Interesting coaching matchup between those two, don't you think?
And yeah, I mean,
who would have thought out of the two of them that you would consider Lane Kiffin the more genuine coach?
Well, at least you know what you get with Lane. With Brian Kelly, you don't know what you get other than fake accents, dance fever, and 360-degree cameras where you're trying to do finger pistols, and none of that works. And for Billy Napier, losing twice in the SEC at home in a season is not boding well.
But still an interesting game.
Oh, no.
I think Ole Miss will win.
Yes, exactly.
I think Ole Miss has far too many horses for LSU, and I never thought there would be a day really in the last 20 years where I would actually say that.
True.
But yet here we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And who knew? Tulane was ranked.
I don't know.
Well, it's because Georgia Southern beat James Madison, knocking them out of the poll.
Yep.
Wait, I said that again, didn't I?
They've got Memphis.
Yeah, and they're a 6-point favorite at home. They're 6-1. I think that they take care of business. Tickets as low as $32 to get into Yulman Stadium in New Orleans.
Okay, so Thursday night here in Atlanta, Georgia Tech hosts Virginia. Let's tip a hat to Brett Key.
Absolutely.
Who has taken over at Georgia Tech and a totally different atmosphere and totally different team in an athletic department that is at best right now rudderless, I guess.
Yeah.
But they did hire an athletic director this week, though.
Yep. Jay Batt comes over from Alabama. And
not J-A-Y Bat, but just J as
like
letter.
Yeah, kind of like Harry S. Truman.
Without the Harry.
Yeah. So Jay Batt, departing his role of Executive Deputy Director of Athletics, Chief Operating Officer, Chief Revenue Officer. Man, that's a big business card. From the University of Alabama. So Jay Batt is taking his double-sided business card with all of those duties in Tuscaloosa, Executive Deputy Director of Athletics, COO, CRO at Alabama, and is joining Georgia Tech on October 24th as athletic director. So he's the new guy.
But who knew that after starting the season 1-3 and letting Jeff Collins go, who had a marketing plan, that's about it.
Yeah, about right.
Waffle House.
We would be talking about Tech as a possibility as a Coastal Division champion. Now, granted, because they're right behind North Carolina in that division. Again, they still got to get by Virginia, which they should, the way they're playing.
Yeah, I don't think that speaks to the quality of Georgia Tech. I think it speaks to just how freaking bad the ACC Coastal is.
Well, I think for me, it's more of a feel-good story.
True.
Because here's a program that was
Moribund.
needed need the paddles put to it, and they did. And granted, they still got to go to Tallahassee. They still got to go to Blacksburg, and they have North Carolina
They got a legit
as
chance
their
of
last
beating
conference
Virginia.
game. Just think of the storyline that would be if they run the table, play North Carolina for the Coastal and win it. I mean, that to me is what a difference a couple of months makes.
You ain't kidding.
An improbable rags to riches story.
I mean, they should beat Virginia. Then they've got 9 days before they go to Tallahassee. Then they turn around to go to Blacksburg. Then they've got Miami coming in, and then they go to Chapel Hill. And
tall task, yes, but obviously Brent Key has got the coaching chops that Jeff Collins never had.
check. And I mean, just think about it with what we're seeing here. Same personnel, different dude. See what happens? And Brent Key being a Georgia Tech guy. I mean, if he finishes the season out the way that we anticipate, where you end up with, if you beat Virginia, you're at 4-3. If you win 2 of your last 5, and you're not going to beat Georgia. So if you win some combination of 2 of Florida State, Virginia Tech, Miami, North Carolina, you're bowl eligible after starting out 1-3. And I think the job is Brent Key's.
Oh yeah, if he gets them to a bowl game, no question about it. You have to give it. You can't not give it to him at that point. And I think they beat Virginia on Thursday night.
No doubt.
Virginia's not very good.
But you got an former Alabama athletic executive, Bill O'Brien's over there. That's a possibility now.
Yeah, especially
off the Saban tree.
Yeah, but once again, Jay Batt coming from the University of Alabama. You have Bill O'Brien coming from the ex-head coach Nick Saban Reclamation Project to PhD class.
Also, Bill O'Brien, a former offensive coordinator at Georgia Tech.
Yep, I was going to say he's got some Tech ties, but just throwing it out there, guys. Seeing if anything sticks.
Yeah. Okay, so we've heard it here first. Will said it first, so there you go.
All right, guys. Anything else on your mind?
Oh, let me check and see if there's anything in the deep, dark recesses. Rivalries and trophy games this week. West Georgia, Valdosta State. Battle for the Peach Basket. After getting to catch up with both sides of Ferris and Grand Valley for 1 versus 2 and Anchor Bone, where Grand Valley got the Duke and they get Anchor Bone Trophy heading back to the lake. We'll see what we can do this week when it comes to West Georgia and Valdosta State in Division II for trophy games and rivalries. Going single coverage to pull back the curtain on those 2 last week. Very, very cool to get those perspectives.
Tune in now.
Exactly. So those are some of our thoughts here on college football. Looking back at Saturday and looking ahead at what's coming up this Saturday. If you want to read some of our opinions, theonlinesportsguys.com. Check us out on Twitter at OSG Sports and on Facebook as well at OSG Sports. And check out this podcast as well. You can find us on YouTube, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, wherever you catch your podcast. You can check out the College Football X and listen to us whenever you want. Any final thoughts, guys?
Please like or subscribe.
Please like and subscribe.
Sorry, I was doing my Marty imitation.